So my partner and I were unfortunately in the market for a new fridge recently. And as we were looking for new fridges, we did not have a lot of criteria. We didn't want to spend a lot of money. We ideally wanted something that had a freezer on the side or the bottom, just because we put a lot of heavy stuff in the freezer. We also just wanted to make sure it fit, obviously. We didn't want a water hookup and we did not want anything with Wi-Fi connectivity. Besides that, we just wanted a fridge that worked because ours no longer did. So we're looking for something quickly also. So our criteria are already kind of narrowed down. We go to a store to get a look at things before we order it. And as we're in the store looking at one of the fridges that seemed to meet our criteria, um, one of the staff from the store goes, "Hey, I can show you a fridge that's basically the same as this fridge, but cheaper." So we're like, "Okay, cool. We like that idea." We go and look at this fridge. And it has Wi-Fi capabilities. And we're both like, no, I think that's the deal breaker for us. Like, we do not want a fridge with Wi-Fi. Even if we do not have to set this fridge up with Wi-Fi, I do not want that capability in there. So we ended up paying slightly more to get a fridge without Wi-Fi. Keep in mind, I think the fridge with the Wi-Fi was on sale at the time. And so they're kind of comparable price-wise normally, but it just ticked me off to pay more to not have Wi-Fi in a fridge. So this video is kind of birthed out of that frustration. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the things that concern me about smart devices, about the Internet of Things, basically. So if you're not familiar with the term IoT devices or Internet of Things, that's basically anything with that kind of Wi-Fi connectivity on a device. It can be other things besides just Wi-Fi, but generally we're talking about the same kind of things that we're talking about with smart technologies. And I use both terms throughout this video because some of the research is using the IoT terminology. So just so we're clear, I do not hate these technologies. IoT devices can be great for accessibility, for example. There are a lot of really great practical uses of smart technologies. But there are also a lot of really stupid ones. There are also a lot of ways that we are potentially putting ourselves at risk with these devices. And we need to talk about this stuff. We need to talk about also like who's selling these things? What can they be gaining by putting these technologies in our equipment? We need to talk about this stuff. So that's why I'm making this video. Let's talk about collecting data and privacy concerns. So from a just plain, let's start out with the stuff that we give these corporations if we get these smart technologies, particularly if we are setting them up. So we are looking at potentially at least giving some data about the usage of our product to the company that is making the product, provide to the company that has provided said product. And I don't even like that. I don't like the idea of them kind of counting how many times you left your fridge open or like what times you use a certain appliance. I don't know. That's just something I don't think they need to know. And there's also the app side of things and the permissions of the app, as well as potential account information that you might be putting in. And I think it's good to be aware of the differences. Like some companies have a little bit more of sharing with other parties than others, but there is data that is being collected. So let's look at LG's ThinkQ app, which is what you would be using for their Wi-Fi connectivity for their smart home devices. Just in data shared with other parties, we have audio, so voice or sound recordings, we have device or other IDs, personal info like your name, email address, user IDs, address, phone number, and other info, whatever that means, app activity, app info and performance, contacts, photos and videos, and your location. Ew. And data collected, basically all that stuff as well. Love that. But your data is encrypted in transit, and you can request your data to be deleted according to the Play Store, so that's cool. So that's gross. I don't like that. Keep in mind that not all of these apps are equal. So I did find that some apps do at least seem to be a little nicer in what they collect. So we've got the Home Connect app, and that is what's used for Bosch appliances, for example. And they don't share data with parties, allegedly. We've also got data collected, photos and videos, personal info, name, email address, user IDs, app activity, app info and performance, and device or other IDs. So a little less than LG, at least I will give them that. So I would say if you are considering getting a smart device and using the app that you are generally going to need to get those features, highly, highly recommend to go into the App Store and check the permissions. Is that something that you're okay with? Because it doesn't tell you that on the box. And yeah, just check like even reviews for how stupid the app is. So that's kind of two things that give me the ick: the data that is collected about you for the manufacturer and the things that they may want to do with that, and then also the data that they might be giving to third parties. Also, don't love that. And of course, they will say things like it is to personalize your experience and to improve your functionality. And they will give us reasons why they want this information. But I still don't think that a lot of these devices, like your stove, for example, needs to know your name, needs to know where you live. I don't love that stuff being anywhere. So another concern are things that are collected data wise and do get breached, right? Data breaches are a concern. And with all these extra corporations that you are maybe signing up for accounts for who have data on you, I don't love that, even if they are being careful with their data. So then there's also the concern of people hacking into your network, for example, hacking onto your equipment, and learning things about you. Maybe they might be able to start printing out a bit of a blueprint for your home, things like that. There are reasons why people would want to hack these things, apparently, and there are also ways. And this is shown when researchers investigate this stuff. So, this research article was looking at ways to assess for potential threats in regards to reliability and authentication. The authentication threat is where they were looking for vulnerabilities that might allow some unauthorized access to data, potentially leading to some ability to manipulate things or for data to be extracted. Of the consumer devices that they looked at, 25% of them were found to be vulnerable to what are called replay attacks, and 33% were found to be vulnerable to what are called man in the middle attacks. So, some room for improvement there from the looks of it. So, I don't think we're really having enough conversations about this stuff, about these security concerns, about how we can, for example, minimize risk. Even something like a VLAN, which is a virtual area local network, is something that I have never set up. I'm not that techy of a person and never would have known before doing research for this video that that's something that might be a smart idea if you are going to have smart devices in your home. So even something as small as that like a lot of people don't even know what it means. A lot of people would not know that that is something that may help with protecting themselves. So one of the reasons that I am very passionate about this video now. Another area that really concerns me is the unreliable nature of this stuff. We are using these technologies often with these apps, and the app can just get an update and be super, super crappy all of a sudden. There's also the possibility that a company is bought by somebody else or go under, or there is some other way that you either lose support for the app, that app just goes away, that company just says, screw you, they just stop providing the smart side of things for your technology. They might decide that they want to shut down their servers and there's nothing you can do about it. Or they'll make changes that just make the experience using the product so much worse, like injecting ads. So we've also got where companies will sometimes be bought by another company. And because of that, requiring that you make a different account or link a different account to continue to use the smart services. But then you are agreeing to different agreements. There's different terms of service. There's different things that may not be something you want to agree to, but in order to actually keep what you bought, you have to do that. And it's so freaking frustrating. The fact that we don't have consequences for that, the fact that you are just buying things with the risk of any day their app just no longer being on the App Store, any day they can just say, hey, we actually don't provide this anymore. And that seemingly just can happen. With design, it is really great to design for making things as accessible as possible. That is really ideally a first step. And I think and there's huge benefits that can come for everybody by making things more accessible. I think it's really, really important that these smart technologies are designed with consideration for accessibility and for helping people with disabilities, almost like as a very early step. The way that apps and functionality might be updated in future, if they are not considering the accessibility side, if they are not considering that a lot of people buying smart devices might have disabilities, um, it worries me for that functionality. It's like, yeah, it sucks when you take that from anybody, but it also really sucks when there are people who have become very reliant on this stuff, where there are people who have had their independence back because of this stuff, and something changed on a whim is going to really influence their quality of life. So, the other thing I worry about is with some of that information that's being collected, if it's being used to track health things, that information could be making some people a lot of money. And I don't love that could be with, say, disabled folks maybe using certain tools for accessibility more, them also being more of a target for certain things is really gross to me. A lot of these smart technologies can be seen by companies as a way to make increased revenue. And how would they be doing that perchance if they were not doing anything that we wouldn't like? How would they be doing that without selling us more stuff? How would they be doing that without putting ads in our stuff? How would they be doing that without trying to personalize our experience? There's an article in the Wall Street Journal titled LG Whirlpool Target Customers Disconnected from Smart Appliances. So LG had said that they have roughly left less than half of their smart appliances being connected to the internet. And they're really wanting to increase that. And basically, they're seeing it as a possibility to enable them to make more money. Um, the internet, so it said, this article says internet connected appliances provide manufacturers with data and insights about how customers are using their products, allowing them to sell relevant replacement parts or subscription services. So there are companies that have basically admitted that they see these smart technologies, they see these IoT devices as things that can help them make more profit. And when that is a thing that they are thinking about over things like accessibility and reliability, I don't like it. I do not trust it. There's things like Samsung now putting ads on fridges. There's also the possibility to paywall certain things, block them off, make them either a one-time purchase or a subscription fee, with things like the Lululemon mirror, where Lululemon basically gave up on the mirror. They stopped selling it, and they joined with Peloton for a membership program for people who had the mirror, but their memberships are like $39 a month. So basically, if you don't want to pay the membership fee, it kind of just turns into a brick from the sounds of it. So there is the option of hacking things, programming things yourself, finding solutions that way, but I don't think a lot of people are doing that. And then there's things like companies not charging a subscription fee and then later on integrating one and demanding that customers either pay up for the subscription fee or lose the smart features. So, another thing that's really icky to me is that some companies have started to lock certain features behind an app. Things like certain Bosch dishwashers that have features that were locked behind an app. So you could not access them by pressing any buttons, but you could access them through an app. And now ovens are requiring apps as well for things like convection roast modes or air fry modes. Like this listing has the air fry mode in the title of the listing. And in order to use that feature, you need to enable it through Wi Fi. What the heck? I'm gonna just say this Amazon thing with their fridges. Yes, I hate the ads thing, and you can't. There are ways to kind of get around the ads if you are in like a different mode. But I went onto their website and looked at their updates, and there is actually some other stuff in there that's also creepy. They have this updated personalized intelligence for every user. So Bixby gets new voice ID capabilities, allowing it to recognize who is speaking and switches to their Samsung account. This makes it easy for users to access their calendar and view their photos or find a misplaced phone even when it's on silent. And oh, I don't like that. I don't think that sounds good. I'm sure that's something you don't have to have on, but like, ew. So the thing that worries me about that is that we could have huge violations of families' privacy. Like, absolutely, hopefully, everybody is in situations where they live in a home where they don't have to hide things from each other and they communicate clearly. And so, sharing a calendar is not a big deal. But I can think of situations where that most definitely is a big deal. I don't like that this fridge could be providing access to that. Cool that we can recognize by voice, but what happens when people just start recording your voice and using that to access the fridge with your account on it? That's so gross. So obviously shitty people are going to be shitty, but like that just is not a feature that I think is going to help a lot of people. I think that's a feature that could be doing more harm than good. So another thing that I really don't like about these smart technologies, and this is just a potential thing, but I'm sure it happens and we don't talk about it, are how there can be imbalances of power in a household and how I think smart technologies can really exacerbate that. So we have things like if you have someone who is the controller of all of these smart technologies, they might be able to mess with people. Like there are actual things that they could be able to do to push a power imbalance. And I really don't like that. I'm not to say that the smart technologies are the problem, but I'm just saying it's something to be aware of. Another concern is just like the waste, the environmental impact of these smart technologies with things that just become obsolete because support has ended for them. It's all just gross and adds to this overpopulation of e-waste. And there are people who are really savvy with like open source software stuff and can end up making these things still very usable even after the support has ended. And I think that's fantastic and something that we need a lot more of. But we also need a little bit more, I think, from these companies to really step up and take responsibility for how much waste we are making. Some companies will take back the product so that they are disposed of properly, or at least that's what they claim. But some will just tell you to figure it out, which like, people are not the greatest at, honestly. In the example of the car thing that Spotify discontinued, they just recommended disposing of it. Just figure out what your local e-waste protocols are and toss this thing out. It's just unfortunate that we have so much tech that just becomes waste, and these numbers just keep getting bigger and bigger. So, another issue that I have with these IoT technologies is they are often connected to an app on your phone. And I actually do not like to spend a lot of time on this thing. I still spend more time on it than I would like to, but I do not like to have alerts on my phone. I have gotten so much notification fatigue at times. I really do not like to have to keep on checking notifications on a phone. Having an app that I have to open, I have to wait for, I have to sometimes get, and sometimes is going to be delayed. There's a lot of aspects that I don't like about being connected to this thing. So there's also the factor of like, how you sometimes have to like check and double check and triple check that you have not accidentally called the person that you are maybe getting a little bit upset about at the moment, or that you have not accidentally liked somebody's picture from 4 years ago. If you have to kind of like double check after that, I also would probably be doing that a lot with like, did I accidentally turn on the oven? Like, it's great that we have an app that can tell you, hey, your oven is off, but I have the problem of not knowing if I did that thing regardless, and I would probably still be like, did I accidentally turn it on? Did my app glitch out? I don't know if I would have more peace of mind. I hate the idea of being able to turn on my oven from my phone in my pocket. I don't know that I trust like things from going sour. I'm not trying to dissuade you entirely from these technologies, but we need to talk about this stuff to um put pressure on companies to tell them what is not okay and to vote with your dollar. Be mindful about what you do agree to letting into your home, what permissions you do give, and maybe do some research ahead of time. Really think about these features that they're offering and if they actually do provide a lot of benefit to your life. I think there's certain things that can benefit our lives with IoT devices, but there's also a lot that if we really thought about it, if we really reflect on it, we might be just interested in for novelty. I think we also need to put some pressure on companies in regards to when they are saying, hey, we're going to like pull this support. We need to try to get safeguards in place to protect people who are using these technologies. A lot of people who are going to like Home Depot to buy a fridge, I don't think they're thinking about these aspects of the smart technologies, and they may not know like what things are required, what things are already going to be tracked, what things might I be signing up for if I get this device. So I think we really need to keep talking about this stuff, make people aware. A lot of these companies, they will try stuff, they will feel the waters to see what they can get away with, and if we let them get away with it because we are just feeling so hopeless, I don't think that's great. There's so many ways that we could have things better. We could have more access to things like source code after companies just decide to know about. We could have things made to be open source. We should ideally have some protections to help people to get more life out of their products and to prevent waste. I think it's awesome that there are people working towards trying to make things a little bit better. Even looking at like the Google Nest situation that happened recently. There's the Fulu bounties to try and find a solution. There's also the no longer evil custom open source software that seeks to repurpose your old Nest hardware. There are also some things being done to try to help to educate customers a little bit more in regards to what they're getting into with IoT devices. There's this US cyber trust mark that's kind of supposed to be like a nutrition label for IoT devices, or has also been kind of compared to the Energy Star program. But it is a voluntary program. It's nothing that these companies have to comply with. So it'll be interesting to see if that does anything. I feel like so many of us have agreed to so many terms of service at this point that you're like, what's the point? Everybody knows everything anyways. And I sometimes have definitely gotten there. But the other side of things too is like, if we just take it continuously, we're not telling these companies that it is not okay. And it can make a difference, us saying to companies what we will not tolerate. With BMW, they Yes, they do still charge for you to get your automatic high beams to work, but they also did get enough flack for charging people to use heated seats that they stopped doing that. I'll give you another example. Sonos, the speaker company, had announced that they were going to be providing a 30% discount for previous customers, with the caveat that they permanently deactivated and recycled their previous speakers. So, from an e waste perspective, not cool. And people were rightfully upset about this, made their voices heard, and Sonos did end up changing their decision and continued to offer the 30% discount, but no longer required people to brick their older devices in order to get that discount. I think just, yeah, like calling out, especially if you have anything with a company that has done anything that you don't agree with, make sure you make your voice heard in whatever way you can. If that is calling the company out, if that is writing them an email, whatever, just anything to make sure that they are aware that this shit is not cool. Because yeah, they'll try. They will try. I am sure they already have. So feel free to comment. I would love to know, like, what are your biggest gripes with this smart technology? Just any thoughts that you have on this stuff. I would love to hear it. And thanks for joining. Take care.